Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. In this video we're going to show you how to change out the KitchenAid mixer speed governor. It's going to be a very easy repair and it should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open up the package, you're going to get the new speed governor. The speed governor is part of the speed control system. The main reason to be changing it out is if the speeds have become irregular or the mixer is running louder than normal. Before you work on the mixer, you want to make sure all the attachments are off. In order to remove the beater, all you have to do is lift up on it and then turn it clockwise as you're looking down on it. Then you can let it go and lift it out. Then we can remove the bowl, which all you have to do is lift up on it and pull it out. Once you have them both out, you can set them aside. In order to get to the part, we have to take the back cover off. We're going to use a Phillips screwdriver to take the screw out. Once you have the screw out, you can rotate the cover down and lift it off its little mounting legs. Once you have it off, you can set it aside. To make it easier to get the seal out, we're going to take these two screws out that hold this trim on because it kind of overlaps and covers up the edge of the seal. So we're just going to use a Phillips screwdriver to take out the screws. Once you have the screws out, you can carefully flex the trim away and lift it off and set it aside. Now that we have the trim band off, we have to remove the seal. We have to remove 3 wires on this side and 2 on this side so we can get it off. We're going to use a small flathead screwdriver to take these wires off. Just want to carefully pop them off. The terminals on the speed control plate are labeled with the wire colors so you don't mix them up. And the next one down is the black wire. And then we can use our Phillips screwdriver to take out the screw that holds in the grounding wire. Once you have the screw out, we can go to the other side and take those off. On this side, we're going to take the lower red one off, and then the white one on the bottom. Once you have the wires off, we can get them out of the way. Once you have the wires out of the way, we can pull the seal off the end of the mixer and set it aside. Now that we have the seal removed, we can reach up and take the spring off the speed control plate. You just want to carefully unhook it with a needle nose pliers, and then you don't want to let it go and snap back into the housing assembly. So we're going to hook a towel onto it and just hook the spring into the fibers and let that hold the spring so we can grab it later. Before we take the speed control plate off, we want to measure how far the back of the plate is from the end of this post. The book says it's supposed to be 3/8 of an inch, but if yours was adjusted at any time in the past, you want to make sure you measure it so you know what your starting point is when you put it back in. So you want to measure from the end of this post to the back of the control plate. Once you know what the measurement is, we can take the speed control plate off to get to the part. Now that you know your measurement, we can use a Phillips screwdriver and remove these 2 screws. You want to make sure you don't lose the nut or the spring, so just make sure you loosen the screw enough to come out of the post, but you don't take the nut with it. Once you have one side down, we can do the other side. Once you have both screws loose, we can pull the speed control plate off the little white arm down here. All you have to do is carefully pull it out, and then we can lift it out of the way so we have access to the speed governor. Now that we have access to the speed governor, we can take it off the shaft. It's only held on by a little bit of tension, so we're going to take a needle nose pliers and carefully wiggle it off. You want to be careful as you're taking it out. There's a little set pin in the shaft that's not really held in by anything. You don't want to drop it and lose it. Once you have it off the shaft, you can pull it off the mixer. Here's the pin that's in the shaft. You want to be careful. If that falls out, all you have to do is push it back in and put it back in place, but there's nothing that holds it in, so you don't want to drop and lose it. Here's the old speed governor next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. To put the new speed governor on, you want to make sure that this little cutout right here is lined up with the locking pin, and then you can rotate it over and just push the governor on to get it started. And then once you have it past the locking pin, we're going to take a 3/8 inch nut driver and carefully put it over the governor. You don't want to damage this part, but we just need to tap this on with a small hammer so it seats all the way down onto the shaft. Once you have the speed governor on all the way, we can lower the speed plate down, and we have to make sure that this part of the actuator arm comes into this opening right here. Once you have that in, then we can tighten the screws on the top. To put the screws in on the top, you just want to carefully line them up with the mounting holes. And then we're just going to use our Phillips screwdriver to screw them in so we get our 3/8 inch measurement from the post to the back of the speed plate. And once you have your 3/8 adjusted, you can take an 11/32 open end wrench and snug the locking nut down a little bit. Once you have them both equal, we can grab the wrench and snug down the locking nut. Once you have everything snugged down, you should remeasure it to make sure you haven't moved it. Now that we have the screws adjusted up above, we can hook the spring back down to the bottom of the speed control plate. So all we're going to do is carefully pull the spring out and grab with the needle nose so we can unhook the towel from it. And then we have to hook it right in this little groove on the speed control plate. Once you have it back in place, we can put the seal back on. To put the seal back on, we're just going to carefully line it back up and make sure the wires are out of the way. And we're going to get the bottom in first, and then we're going to lift it up and put the top in. Once you have the seal in place, we can attach the lower wires to the speed control plate. We're going to do the ones on this side first. Anytime you're reattaching the wires to the speed control plate, you want to make sure that the wire connectors fit on really tight, because if they don't, they may come out as the speed control plate moves around. So if it's loose, you may have to take a needle nose pliers and compress it a little bit so that when you put it on, it's tight. We're going to start with the red one. All you have to do is line it up, and we're going to use a small flathead screwdriver to help put the wire on. And then the white one on the lower one. Once you have both wires connected on this side, we can do the ones on the other side. We're going to use the Phillips screwdriver to put in the screw that holds in the ground wire first. Once you have the ground screw tightened down, we can grab our small flathead screwdriver and put the wires on this side. On the bottom terminal, we have the black wire. And then the upper terminal, we have the white wire. Now that we have all the wires reconnected to the speed control plate, we can put the trim band back on. To put the trim band on, all you have to do is carefully line it up on the mixer and then hook each end around the back side so we can use the Phillips screwdriver to put the screws in. Now that we have the mixer put back together, we have to adjust the speeds. Even though we tried to measure everything and get it set just like it was before we took it apart, you may have to make some small adjustments. So we've temporarily plugged it back in, and then we have to adjust these two upper screws to adjust the low speed, and then we're gonna use this lower screw to adjust speed 6. The low speed is supposed to spin at 60 RPMs, which is basically 1 per second. So we're gonna very carefully turn it on and put our finger against the shaft of the mixer and count for 15 seconds and see how many times it goes around. Just carefully put it against, and every time it bumps, just count for 15 seconds. Once you're done counting, you can turn it off, and then you can adjust these two screws. You have to turn each one the same amount. If you need to make it go faster, you turn the screws out to increase the speed. Also, if you turn the mixer on and you don't get any speed, it doesn't even come on, these are going to be too far in and you need to adjust them out. If you have to adjust the speed, all you have to do is carefully turn each screw, do maybe 1 revolution, and then do the other side, and then you can turn the mixer back on and count the revolutions again. Once you have the slow speed set, we can tighten down the locking nuts. We're just gonna hold the screw with our screwdriver, and then we're gonna take the 11/32 wrench and just tighten these down so they don't move. Once you tighten them down, you can recheck the speed to make sure that it's still good. Once you're sure it's good, you can turn it off, and then we can check the high speed. To set the mixer up for the higher speeds, we're actually going to test it on speed 6, and that has to spin 180 revolutions per minute, so we're going to have to count 45 times in 15 seconds. So you're going to have a timer or look at a clock with a second hand and make sure you count 45 revolutions in 15 seconds. Once you're ready to go, we can turn it to speed 6. Once you've counted the revolutions and you know what speed it is, if you have to, you can adjust this lower screw to adjust speed 6. It's in to go faster and out to go slower. You may have to do this a couple times in order to get the speed right, but you should count 45 times in 15 seconds that it hits your finger. Once you have all the speed set in correctly, you should hear a distinct noise between all the speeds as you go up in speed. Once you have all the speeds adjusted properly, we can unplug the mixer and put the cover on. To put the cover on, you want to make sure that this little seal goes into the groove right here as you lift it up, and you want to make sure there's no wires being pinched, and then you can make sure the feet are in the frame and lift it up and hold it in place while we use the Phillips screwdriver to put the screw in. Now that we have the cover back on, we can put the bowl and the beater on. To put the bowl back on, all you have to do is line up the pinholes and set it down. Once you have it in place, you can lock it in. Once you have the bowl in, we can put the beater on. To put the beater back on, all you have to do is line up the shaft with the opening and make sure that the locking pin goes in the slot. You can lift it into place and lock it on. Once you have the mixer put back together, you can plug it back in and take it for a spin. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.